sitting under a palm tree. Listening to the birds sing. A slightly cool, gentle breeze in 27 degrees. Without a care in the world, or without a thought in my mind, unless I apply myself to making a video or when I'm reading. For a long time now I've been speaking about the benefit of not thinking, and I don't know how many of you, if any of you, have reached a level with your meditation whereby you can stop thinking entirely for hours on end. My blackbird friend over there. And the thing is about it is that it takes you to another place. Can you imagine not thinking at all? Can you imagine walking around for hours not thinking? Every so often a thought will come to mind, but you don't pursue it. You just let it go, let it go, let it go. And I can stay without thought for a few minutes, and then it's kind of like a ghost comes drifting by, and it's making itself available. It's saying, do you want to think about me? And I just ignore it, and I just let it pass. And so then what happens is that you become an observer, a silent observer of yourself and the world about you, because you don't have the egoic programmed mind constantly churning out rubbish, always trying to fill in the gaps of a embarrassing silence. That's what it's like. It's always trying to fill in the gaps of what it considers to be embarrassing silence, or a wasted dead space, because it's not involved. It doesn't like not to be involved. It always wants to be the centre of attention. But once you can take mastery over the ego and you can set it aside, then there's something else there. And this something else is peace, contentment, calm, observation, alertness, awareness. You just notice so much. You're involved in another way so much. You're involved of the smallest of nuance to do with the world. Primarily the natural world, because the natural world, of course, comes alive. There's only so much you can see by looking at a table and chairs. There's only so much you can see by looking at a car. I've done it. I've done it numerous occasions to see if there's any variance in it, to see if I can see any more about this car. But the only more I can see, the only moreness I can see about the car comes from the natural world, and it comes from how the sun shines upon it. That's the only region where I can see more, because the car itself is dead, you see. Whereas the natural world is alive. And when you look closer at the natural world, you can see it breathing. You can feel its presence. You have an affinity and a connection with it, that you absolutely know that you are one. You don't get this with inanimate objects, man-made objects, cars, buildings, tables and chairs, whatever. They don't give you anything. They don't give you any level of satiation. So what can we derive from this? There's something that we can derive from it, people. And what we derive from it is, it brings about a great revelation that the world we are immersed in for most of our lives, the matrixial world, is dead. And it gives the illusion of aliveness due to the confusion and due to the incessant demand for your attention with flashy, flashy, flashy. But it can't keep your attention. It can't keep your level of involvement, because people get bored within an instant. That's why it's all speeding up. That's why when people make videos, they have to include so many wonderful graphics just to keep you excited, because they're not saying anything. If people were really saying something, you wouldn't need a single graphic. Like my videos now, like the very few of you that enjoy to watch somebody speaking about what they think and feel. That doesn't happen in the Matrix. It's just flashy, 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 flashy. Hypnotic flashes going on all the time. Hypnotic flashes of sex and money and self-aggrandizement and all of the aspects of gluttony and greed that we get from within the Matrix. That's what the Matrix gives you. And that's why people are becoming so unsatiated with it. It needs to be faster and faster. You need to be getting more and more and more, because the ego is becoming so greatly unsatiated. It's almost at a point whereby it's realizing its great deficit. Its great deficit that it just doesn't want to sit still. Because if it sat still, then it would fall apart. There'd be nothing there for it to do. There'd be nothing there for it to be afraid of. There'd be nothing there for it to judge. There'd be nothing there for it to contest. There'd be nothing there for it to be stimulated by, because it needs a high level of stimulation. And so when we put this matrixial operating system aside and we go into the natural world, a completely different world, a real world, a living world, a very, very intelligent world, a soothing, beautiful, connecting world. When you enter into that world, you don't need anything other than its calmness. Just the very, very gentle fluttering of leaves in the wind, of the sweet song of birds, of the rustling of leaves when the wind passes through it, the shimmering of light from all of the leaves and branches, the shadows that it casts, the reflection of the sunlight from everything, and the ocean and the water, just to watch. Completely envelops the soul, because that is what we belong to. That's where we came out of, and that's where we should be going back to. And so, I'm watching again my little blackbird friend. Blackbirds have the most beautiful of song. It has a whole lot more diversity to it than the vast majority of other birds. I'm talking Northern European birds. Let's say, well, I mean, the birds around here are almost the same as they are in the UK. And so you listen to the intonation and you listen to the variants and you get involved and you get immersed in it. And it's such a wonderful, relaxing, communicative thing. It's a start. It's a start just to be alone in mountains and valleys, away from everybody, away from all man-made sounds. That's a great start. And then to close out the thoughts, that's a tremendous leap in the right direction. How many people can do that? How many people would want to do it? How many people will be terrified of doing it, thinking that they're going to go mad? What happens, people, is that you don't go mad. You may see some very, very peculiar things. You may experience some very peculiar things. Because the nature of what we really are is a whole lot more peculiar than we have been led to believe. We are completely immersed and trapped in a fiction which is brought about by the egoic mind. And with the amount of reading and learning that I have done about what it is to be a spiritual entity, through whatever means, I'm currently reading a book today, and this book is called Reality, by Peter Kingsley. Now, this book is premised on philosophy, logic, reason, spirituality, and ultimately what it is to be human. And it starts way, way back in the early Greek times. Let's say 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. There's a guy called Parmenides, said to have been the father of logic. But it turns out that not only was he a philosopher, he was very related to spiritual masters of the variety of thing that I'm speaking about, of the variety of thing that Hermes Trismegistus spoke about, of the variety of thing that the ancient Egyptians spoke about, of the variety of thing that many esoteric ancient cultures have spoken about. The Gnostics, for instance, they delve into this stuff, and what it appears to be, what the general consensus is, if we're going to find out that which we really are, other than taking psychedelics, then we need to enter into absolute solitude, darkness, and stillness. No movement. And so what happens when we enter into darkness, stillness, and solitude? The ego closes down and the spirit rises. And so you are in prime territory then for experiencing the supernatural, out-of-body experiences, very bizarre visions and inspirations and meetings with other entities and all this sort of stuff. because we are a spiritual being, but the essence of what we really are has been suppressed so powerfully by the modern day culture and the development of the ego, that most people, they've got no idea they're a spirit. They've got no idea. They just think it's fiction and fantasy. This is how incredibly lost we are. And that's what this book says in some of its opening passages, that man has absolutely no idea what he is, where he's going, where he come from. Completely just no idea. Completely in the dark. And yet man thinks he's in the light. And that's the preposterous paradox of it. We're thinking that we've got it all made, we know this about this and that about that, and it's science, you know, and all this business. But at the end of the day, all we're doing is perpetuating the illusion and the fiction, when the reality is, it's just spirit, it's consciousness, with all that huge array of whatever pertains to consciousness. And so we can see a little flicker or glimmer of what more consciousness has to offer when we enter into a different disposition. Darkness, stillness, and solitude. And so, like I say, I'm not going that far just yet, but I do think there's going to be a whole lot of benefits come about if I spend 30 or 40 days wandering around on my own, sitting beneath trees like I am now, without man-made noises, without any humans around me at all. And if I see them, I'm going to be in avoidance of them. There is only going to be me. And when my ego is set aside, what is left? The very essence of what I am. I'm going to be experiencing the very essence of what I am. And so, I don't know how many of you have, any interest in this thing. I don't know really who I'm speaking to these days. It's difficult for me, I've given up now trying to quantify. I've given up looking for something. I have given up expecting something. And so I think the only thing I can do really is just be myself, continue on my journey and reveal my journey, my thoughts, what I'm gleaning, what's becoming apparent to me, any supernatural experiences, anything. I'm going to be revealing those. And as far as any use, what use would it be to you? How many of you would be doing this? That's the thing, isn't it? And so, anyway, this is what I'm doing. I've got a life to pursue. I've got my intuition, which is becoming stronger and stronger and guiding me more and more. And that's where it's taking me. And so I'll just be me, you be you, and whoever comes to view, then so shall it be. So peeps, I don't know when I'll be making the next video, don't know really what I have to say these days. And so we'll just play it by ear, yeah.